appropriate action if you do not want to be included in this live and recorded information session. All remarks today are on the record and for attribution. With the signing of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law by President Biden, Reclamation takes on a new opportunity to invest in our infrastructure and benefit the American public for the next generation. We will provide information to tribal and non-federal partners through this process. These information sessions are designed to inform you and address your questions. Updated information about Reclamation's implementation of the law is always available at usbr.gov/bill. That's usbr.gov/BIL. I will add the link in the chat shortly. And questions, comments can be submitted to usbr.bill@usbr.gov if you would like to ask a question during this information session. You can either submit an email, or if you would like to raise your hand, please click on the raise hand icon. We will take your questions in order they are received. If you have called in from your phone, you can hit *5 and this will raise your hand. We are committed to transparency throughout this process and appreciate your support of this historic opportunity to improve our nation's water infrastructure. At this time, I would like to introduce Assistant Deputy Commissioner for Operations and co-lead on implementation of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law at Reclamation, Matt Maucieri. Matt?
Thank you, Peter. Hello, everybody, and thanks again for joining Reclamation's 5th information session on implementation of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. Again, I'm Matt Maucieri, and I'm pleased to be here today with my colleagues to discuss BIL implementation and answer your questions. Before I begin, I want to introduce Reclamation's Deputy Director for Program and Budget and my BIL co-lead, Beth Hughes-Brown, with whom I'll be co-presenting today. Beth will take over a few slides from me in a moment, and we'll rotate back and forth. And we also have some of our subject matter experts from our program management team on hand as well, who will help with questions and answers. Today's session is a continuation of the BIL dialogue that we've engaged in since December of 2021. As you're all aware, communities across the West are facing historic drought, and fortunately, Reclamation and the department are in a position to respond with financial resources and operational flexibilities and technical assistance. The infrastructure law provides a total of $8.3 billion under Title IX to the Bureau of Reclamation, and this funding will supplement and complement the funding requested in the FY 2023 budget for Reclamation's programs. Reclamation is committed to collaborative efforts to ensure that BIL investments reflect the administration's priorities. This includes investing public dollars efficiently, working to avoid waste, and focusing on demonstrable outcomes for the American people. We've posted a public-facing BIL website describing the implementation approach. We've included our initial 2022 and 2023 BIL spend plans on the site to provide as much detail as possible. We've got many links to the different BIL-related funding opportunities that have been rolling out this year. We hope that today's update briefing builds on the information we've communicated previously and gives you a solid understanding of what we're doing, why we're doing it, when it's happening, and how our stakeholder and tribal communities can benefit from BIL. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And with that, we'll go into the slides. So the purpose of this session is just to go over what's new since the last of these information sessions that we did in 2022, what else is coming for the rest of fiscal and calendar 2022, and most importantly, answer your questions and comments. Next slide, please. So just a quick recap, here's what's already out there. If you don't already know, there's the address for the web page. We've done about 9 funding opportunities so far this year, a few more to come that we'll get to in the slides. If you missed any of the previous recordings, or you want the slides from today or the previous recordings, they are both the slides and the videos are at that link. We've got spend plans, news releases, and some FAQs that we've been updating. Many of them we take from the questions that we get from you guys, and then we adapt it and put it into the FAQ document. We've got a table displaying the distribution method and timing for BIL funding. We've got some Buy America information up there that is pretty recent. And then, of course, we've got links to the relevant guidance documents, executive orders, and OMB memoranda there. So take a look at that if you don't already have it. So what are our strategic objectives in implementing BIL? They're right there. It's an increase of water reliability and resilience, supporting racial and economic equity, modernizing infrastructure, and of course, enhancing water conservation and ecosystem and climate resilience. I'll hand off now to Beth for the next few slides.
Hi there, next slide, please. So this is a listing that you've seen before if you've been on our sessions before. And these are the amounts that were put in for each program area in the BIL. Just according to appropriation law, if money is provided for a particular purpose, you have to spend it for that purpose and not for a different purpose. So this is always of interest to us. The way we've done our allocation of these funds in the first year is we've put the funding where we could use it in the first year. So there are some of these programs have gotten more funding in that first year because they were ready to spend it. Others are still in the process of development. They're developing their criteria and so on, and their processes and so on. The last two that you see on this list, Indian water rights settlements and ecosystem restoration, are two programs that were not under Reclamation's portion of the BIL, but they were money available to the Department of the Interior, for which Reclamation qualified, and we are making use of some of the funds from those as well. Next slide, please. So this is a slide that perhaps you've seen before as well. This is how we allocate our funding. There are three different processes. One of them is internal formulation, similar to the way we do our budget every year, an internal formulation process. Rural water would be an example of that, where it's a program, we know what the candidates are, we know how to allocate them, and so on, following criteria, of course. The next one would be I'm sorry, I can't quite read it, an external application process. That's what we do with Title 16 and so on, where we do a NOFO. Everybody knows what a NOFO is, but we like to say it again. Notice of funding opportunity announcement. And so we put out NOFOs for folks to apply for that funding. And those have been extremely successful in this year, and more information is going to follow very soon, perhaps during this month, on some of those very successful NOFOs this year. Next, and then the last one is a combination of the two. For example, aging infrastructure is, or XM, is an example of one that uses both external application process and an internal formulation process. And so a lot of this is not stuff that we basically just make decisions on and get the money going very quickly. So I'm kind of going back over some material that we've covered in past presentations. There might be a few people that have not been there, but just to refresh your memory, if you have, you'll recall most of this. Next slide, please. So this is just a pictorial of how the money goes out the door, what it takes to get the money out the door. The portion of this that has been left off, because we're largely past that stage, is the one where we are actually developing the programs or developing the criteria for evaluating projects under each of the programs. That has to happen before what you see here. But what you see here is all the stages as we go through. I apologize, the eyes are going. So you're seeing release of funding opportunities. Those are the orange slices. And then you see review of applications. Those are the blue slices. And yellow is where we start developing financial assistance agreements. You'll see they go right off the chart. That's quite deliberate, because it can be that everything is done quite quickly if all the, I use the term, ducks are in a row. If we've got all the signatories in place, if we've got everybody having early agreement on how the repayment contracts, for example, are going to look. If everybody has the same picture, things can go very quickly. But this is kind of, it could take longer based on some of those things that are outside our control. So it'll continue until it continues. It could be much shorter than this, but it can be longer as well. Next one, please. Here you're looking at some of the guidance documents that Matt had already referred to. They've been put in place as we go through. As you'll notice, the one at the bottom just happened. The one before it happened quite recently as well. One of the really big ones is OMB Memo 22-12, which is talking about how we will serve as good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. Each of these is requires a great deal of change, a great deal of accommodation, because we are applying new requirements to the operations that we've been doing for such a long time. For example, we will have to do measures and data and evidence based decision making on each and every one of these programs. We will be doing post-award reporting on all of these we've already been doing that, but of course we'll be doing it more and more strenuously and with a great deal of scrutiny. We'll be collaborating with our Inspector General. They've offered to partner with us. We have definitely taken them up on that. We're delighted to have them as partners, and we are addressing risk. Also, increasing our opportunities to do technical assistance to both tribes, underserved and other underserved populations, as well as to our stakeholders in general. So there's a lot of work to be done. That is proceeding on a parallel track. It is not holding us up from doing the work we're already doing. As you can see by the dates there, some of these things were put in place after we were already moving down the path of getting the money out the door appropriately to the right projects where it can be spent appropriately. Next slide, please. Here is an example. This is just an example. This is actually based on the contracts timeline for getting a contract out the door. For those of you who have ever worked in the federal government, particularly the executive branch, you know that doing a contract, you have to obey all of the rules and all the laws that pertain to a contract. So each of these are represented here on this timeline. This is kind of a worst case scenario in terms of how long this could take. It can take less time. Again, if all the ducks are in a row, it can take less time than this. It also can take a little bit more. And this is the example for contracts. There's a similar example for grants that has many of the same components, but not identical. One thing that to be aware of is the way we have done these acquisition actions in the past. We've had each of these steps sequential. I'm oversimplifying, but in general, we've had each of these steps sequential, but now we're doing as many of them parallel, concurrently as possible to streamline the operation of getting money out the door while having obeyed all of the requirements that we still have to obey under federal acquisition requirements. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Beth. And next slide, please, Chelsea. So this slide is just a summary, condensed list of some of the implementation milestones. The two things that we want to get across with this slide is, one, there's going to be a steady tempo of stuff coming out with BIL constantly. That'll happen all year and continue next year for the next several years. And two, it's going to be a variety of stuff. There isn't going to be a single, oh, they're only doing spend plans, or they're only doing funding opportunities, or they're only doing project announcements. It's going to be a variety of stuff, and it'll continue like that because we have so many different funding opportunities and so many different pre-existing programs into which the BIL plugged in money. So those are some of the major milestones, and it'll keep doing that for the rest of the year. There won't be a time when BIL is done until it ends, until the window of appropriations end. But there's not going to be a single wrap-up moment where everything just ends for the year. So that's the reason for the diversity of milestones on that list. Nothing more than that. And I'll hand back to you, Beth, for the next slide.
All right, next slide, please. Okay, this is an excerpt from a page on the web where, and this is updated on a dynamic basis. It's updated as anything changes with one of these programs. The Water Smart program, as you know, is an umbrella program that has many subsets, programs under it. And this is a table that they update every time something changes on the web. I'd like to ask Peter to actually go to that site now to show you that, because it has a lot of the data that that everybody asks for. It has when is NOFO open, when does it close, who qualifies for it, what is the cost share. It has all of that information. Anytime anything changes, it is updated there, and it is at the site that Peter put in the chat. It's fabulous. Just bookmark that, use it, because so many of our questions come back around to what is on that site. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Beth. And if you have a preference for information being pushed out to you rather than you pulling it down, there's a sign up function at that link as well on the WaterSmart pages where you can sign up to get notices whenever we post a funding opportunity or have an announcement. So there's that option as well if you prefer that means of getting information. Next slide, please, Chelsea. Okay, so the biggest single chunk of BIL monies was in the aging infrastructure or critical maintenance and repair section of the BIL. It's also called XM or extraordinary maintenance. That was where we got $3.2 billion to deal with critical maintenance on reclamation facilities. So we conducted our first application period under that newly funded section over the winter. And then we've already gotten out a list of proposed 46 projects to fund with the first 240 million of that $3 billion. That map there, it looks like, wow, there's not that many dots on it. It's the first application period. There's a lot of different projects that are encapsulated within those dots. And again, this is just the limit of the aging infrastructure section of the BIL. The BIL, of course, has a little more than a dozen different areas that we're funding. The reason we put this up there is just to give you a sense of the geographic scope of that one program. There's another slide in here where we talk a little bit more about some of the other programs is geographic scope, but just wanted to show that one as a first because of the size of the critical maintenance section of the BIL. Next slide, please. Just a quick recap of what's gone out so far, what's open right now. I guess closing today is the WEEG, Water and Energy Efficiency Grants funding opportunity, but there's more to come throughout this year. And of course, many of you will recognize many of these funding categories as pre-existing from prior years, and you'll see some of them that are new, like number 5 there on the right-hand side. That'll be a new BIL-funded program. So just a quick sense of what's coming. By the way, these slides will be on our web page, so you can download them at your leisure whenever you want to look at them. Next slide, please. So this map that you see here, this is a depiction in real time, well, as of a day or two ago, of all of the WaterSmart awards that we've made in the last 11 years, all the different categories there. And you guys can generate this map yourself as well, and it allows you to select from the different types of WaterSmart projects, some of them being water and energy efficiency, drought, the different categories that are within that WaterSmart umbrella. Just put this up there to make clear, these projects have that linkage to drought and water conservation and resiliency, and that they've collectively saved right now more than 1.5 million acre feet. For the next couple slides, we're going to turn over to Heidi Morrow, who's director of our mission support organization. They deal with the procurement and financial assistance aspects of our mission. So with that, I'll hand over to you, Heidi.
Thank you, Matt, and hello, everyone. Like Matt said, I am the director of the Mission Support Organization, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Buy America requirements as it relates to both procurement and financial assistance. First, all Buy America requirements, when reclamation contracts directly with an organization, are not new. Those requirements have been in place since the 1930s and were modified in the late 1970s. And reclamation has complied with these requirements long before the passage of the BIL and will continue to do so. The Buy American procurement requirements that do apply to all construction contracts, supply contracts greater than $10,000, and supply elements of service contracts. And in general, the requirements are that raw materials are either mined or produced in the U.S., and products are manufactured in the United States. Next slide, please, Chelsea. Thank you. As discussed earlier, there was a modification to the original procurement Buy America requirements in the late 1970s with the passage of the Trade Agreements Act of 1979. In general, under this act, if a contractor buys products from countries that are designated as trade agreement countries, they can be treated as a domestic product. And it also prohibits purchasing of products from certain countries. For the procurement Buy America requirements, there is a long-standing waiver process for the Buy America requirements if they cannot be met by the contractor. Next slide, please. Now on to what is new with regards to Buy America as a result of the BIL. The BIL applies Buy America requirements to financial assistance, that is grants, cooperative agreements, loans, which include in our case those XM money that is going out the door, for infrastructure projects, regardless of whether or not they're funded by BIL. Again, I'll say that for all infrastructure projects, regardless of funding source. These requirements are slightly different from the procurement Buy America requirements. There is a preference for iron and steel, manufactured products, and construction materials in the United States, and construction materials, and that all of those be produced in the United States. At Reclamation, implementation of these new requirements so far has included the addition of the Buy America requirement language in all of our NOFOs that have been posted since early May, and specific language in all of our financial assistance agreements that are for infrastructure projects and will also be included in those XM agreements that we will be having with those of you that were selected for those. Just like the procurement Buy America requirements, there is an opportunity for waivers for the financial assistance Buy America requirements under the BIL. In general, there are two types of waivers. The first one is a general waiver, which applies if there's more than one project or product, or a project-specific waiver, which applies for just that project. Depending on the type of waiver, it either must be approved by DOI or the Office of Management and Budget after a public comment period. And in general, justifications for the waiver can include three different items. The first one is public interest. That is, complying with the Buy America requirements would be inconsistent with the public interest. The second is non-availability of products, meaning that the products are either not available in the United States in sufficient or quality or quantity. And finally, unreasonable cost, in that purchasing those products that are made and produced in the United States increases the entire project cost by 25%. As of today, there is one waiver, general waiver, that applies for reclamation projects and BIL funding. OMB on July 13th did approve a general 6-month adjustment period waiver for the Department of Interior. And this waiver is set to expire on January 12th, 2023. This waiver provides time for recipients of financial assistance as well as reclamation to prepare to apply the Buy America provision. So during this 6-month period, as a recipient of financial assistance, we ask that you determine if you are already complying, which is fantastic, or if you can comply by January 12th. However, if you are unable to comply by January 12th, back a slide, Chelsea, we're not quite there yet. If you are unable to comply with Buy America provisions by January 12th, you can submit a project level waiver during that 6-month period and will need to be approved by January 12th. Also, during this 6-month time period, Reclamation is looking to see if we need any additional general waivers that may apply to many products or projects. Now we're ready for the next slide, please. Thank you. And as I mentioned earlier, in general, these new Buy America requirements apply to any financial assistance, again, grants, cooperative agreements, loans, and our XM program that is used to build or modify infrastructure throughout the United States. And this slide just lists each of those particular programs. That's all for Buy America for now, and I will turn it back over to you, Beth.
All right, next slide, please. So this is kind of giving you an idea about what is coming up next. The additional detail from the FY 2022 and FY 23 spend plan. The FY 22 stuff, this month, things are going to be happening in a number of those areas. So there's a lot of excitement coming down the pike there. So please stay tuned. Pay attention to our website once again. Water Smart grants are an example of that, and there's a lot of them coming very soon in fairly large amounts. The aging infrastructure application period for the next go round will be opening on October 3rd. I believe it closes on December 1st this next time. And so we're preparing for that already. Storage projects are one of the areas where the program funding will be allocated to the project level. Very soon, it'll be storage and or conveyance projects. And we will know more about that probably by the end of this month or thereabouts. And then again, per some of the slides above, you're going to see some of those additional funding opportunities, including small surface and groundwater storage. You already saw the regular surface and groundwater storage. Everything about them is already in the works. This one will be a new program, the small version of the original one. Next slide, please. Back to okay. So here's what you need to remember, and by this month, yes, I do mean August. So thank you, Matt, for the heads up on that. Yes, August is right around the corner. So please stay engaged. We have been working very closely with you, and a lot of you have been very much involved in feedback on TRMRs and feedback on particular projects, on particular programs. We got an awful lot of stakeholder input on the aging infrastructure program, for example. Please continue that. We consider this a partnership, and we think we've really benefited from your wisdom. Contact us. Those specific emails that you send to usbr.bil@usbr.gov, we've responded to every single one of them, and it's helped us frame the things that we need to consider as well. And we are very adamant about making sure we respond to each and every one. Also, our FAQs, please pay attention to them. Those are the things that so many people ask over and over again. And back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Beth, and thanks, Chelsea. We can move to the last slide. So final thoughts, BIL is happening now. Sometimes people will say when BIL money arrives or when BIL gets implemented, it's happening now in the form of these funding opportunities and in the form of these spend plans that are coming out and allocating money at the project level. So please keep participating both in these forums and as well as in the funding opportunities. So it consists of that second bullet. It's funding opportunities, spend plans, application periods, all of that. And it's only going to be a success with your partnership and your project proposals that we can help fund. So thank you again for being partners with us in BIL implementation, and thanks for listening today. With that, we'll transition over to answering your questions, and I'll hand off back to Peter Sewick.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Beth. At this time, we'll address your questions. To ask a question, please raise your hand using the hand icon at the top of your screen. You may also submit your question by email to usbr.bil@usbr.gov. Once again, if you have a question on anything related to BIL, please click the raise hand icon. If you have dialed into the call on your phone, if you just hit *5, and that will raise your hand to let us know you have a question. Give you a couple minutes to ask a question. Once again, if you have a question, please click the raise hand icon, and at the top it's under the reactions, if you see it there. We'll give it 30 more seconds here and then we'll close out.
While people are thinking about whether they have a question or a follow-up thought, I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to the fact that there is it's not Build Back Better. It is whatever it's called, the new bill that is under consideration now by the Senate, that would actually have more money that would benefit Reclamation and its stakeholders and the people of the country. So we're enthusiastic about that. We will obviously wait until it's enacted to brief you on it. We don't quite know how it would work ourselves yet, but we're keeping our eye on it. It's got quite a bit of funding for some of the things that we would really benefit from. Questions or concerns?
Last chance for any questions. You may always submit a question to usbr.bill@usbr.gov. Okay. Thank you very much to our presenters today. Again, on behalf of the Bureau of Reclamation, thank you for attending today's information session. We're dedicated to transparently implementing the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. Please go to usbr.gov/BIL for the list of for this session or any of the previous sessions that we've hosted. There's an updated FAQ and other updated information on that site regularly. You may also send any questions or comments to usbr.bill@usbr.gov. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.